Keep it quiet. Don't let me know. So I'm pushing. It's a 2-hour mark, and they're like, last chance, push. And then I remember they didn't say, like, I think they maybe said like we have, and they legally have to tell me they're doing an episiotomy, but I was like plugging my ears and I'm like, la, 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 don't tell me. I don't want to hear. I don't want to know.
Welcome to the Double Shift podcast. I'm Dani Kagan, a serial entrepreneur and new mom. I'm obsessed with having unfiltered and inspiring conversations that redefine modern motherhood and celebrate high-performing, ambitious women. From launching a business with a newborn to navigating family life, we dive deep with thought leaders who defy expectations. No filters, some cursing, and pure inspiration to empower you to seize life, live more vulnerably, and reach for greatness together.
I am pumped for today's episode. I've been waiting for this one. Waiting. You might already know her. She's kind of a celebrity. Okay, guys? She's like, no, I'm not. I think you are. I think you're so wonderful in the way you approach postpartum fitness, content creation, all the things. She is a mom of 2 girls, a certified pre-postnatal trainer and fitness creator. She's the founder of Bounce Forward Co., which we're going to talk a lot about today, a health and fitness membership for busy moms, teaching them to find wellness in a realistic way. And you probably know her as Kaylin Crunches. I have Marlie Cohen here. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for that beautiful introduction.
I love sharing everyone's like amazing accolades because you probably don't hear it that often when you're like running your own business and you're like deep in the trenches. And so you kind of need someone to be like, hey, this is what you do. And it's amazing.
I love that. It's also kind of awkward when you're listening to someone talking about you.
Always.
I'm not good at taking compliments.
Embrace it.
Okay, I'll embrace it.
You're doing a lot of good in the world. And one of the things that resonates with me the most in what you do is the fact that you share your story so candidly. So why don't we start there? Tell us a little bit about you. Who is Marlie Cohen?
Sure. Yeah. I guess really everything I'm doing now is because I started sharing my life so candidly on social media, but it wasn't always that way. I was working I can take us back to 2015 when this all started. I was working in corporate real estate for it was like 5 years at this point, and I really wasn't happy in my job. I started an Instagram account at the time after many failed blog attempts because it felt like a easy and safe place to be. I'd never showed my face. All I did was I called it Kaylin Crunches. So actually it was called Nikes by Night, which is another little funny story. Different name. And my husband was like, you shouldn't put a brand name in this account. He sort of had the foresight that I didn't have, that it really could be something, but it was called Nikes by Night, eventually Kaylin Crunches. And I was just sharing how to stay healthy in a 9-to-5 job, but I wasn't sharing anything about me, my face. It was like, here's my oatmeal bowl, here are my sneakers, here's a water bottle. And then eventually, slowly but surely, I felt more comfortable to show my face and share a little bit more about me. And this was before stories. So you had to really communicate everything through a little square photo. And the feed was chronological. I mean, those were the days. And
look how much has changed,
so much has changed. Yeah. And eventually, I mean, I started a really good time, I would say. I know it's very different now. Not that no one should feel discouraged, but it is, much more saturated now. I was probably one of the first fitness influencers, but that term didn't exist at the time, but the first creators or whatever we were bloggers at the time, I guess, and in Toronto. And eventually I was sort of doing 2 things at once. I was working a full corporate job and I was doing this fitness account on the side with the hopes and dreams of just having enough of a clientele to be able to leave and become a fitness instructor. That's all I wanted to do. Train clients, teach group classes, and do this little Instagram thing on the side. Eventually, it was brands reaching out and wanting to work together, and all these, things that I never thought was possible were happening. So I left corporate to do the personal training, fitness instructing, and social media on the side. I guess everything came full circle when I had my first daughter in 2019. The pandemic hit, the gyms closed, and I never really went back to that sort of life. Everything sort of went online. I focused on the creator aspect. That becoming a creator was a little bit more normalized and common, and taking partnerships, doing the mommy blogging stuff. But I really did miss that fitness aspect, and I was also really figuring out how to find fitness again after becoming a mom, and that's where Bounce Sport was born. But I guess we can go. That's a very
Well, I was going to ask you, like, candidly, how long did it take you from when you literally started Keel and Crunches to when you landed like a first paid deal? Like, how long did that take you?
Not long at all. Which again, I want to preface with the time that I was doing this at. There were not a lot of people doing this. So it's really important to remember that this was a long time ago. And I was getting partnerships with under 10,000 followers for sure. And it was always the same people. I noticed, like the same people at the events, the same people doing. I remember there was this one girl in Montreal. We always had the same partnerships together. I was the Toronto girl. She was the Montreal girl. So it was a really small community of creators in Toronto or in Canada at the time. It's still not that big. Like I feel like it's always sort of the same people, but it was fairly quickly, and that's because it was the time that I got in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, okay, so you have 2 kiddos now. You have 2 beautiful daughters. Your youngest is the same age as my daughter. And yes. I'm curious to, like, I think there's a lot of people out there that have really mixed feelings about posting about their kids and like social media and kids. And it's such a new world. Like, we did not have to deal with this when we were kids. Like, I probably can put all of my home videos onto like one little teeny tiny hard drive.
Yeah.
Because we're like filming our kids so much these days. And it is really fun to think about, sharing them with the world and putting them on social. And I think there's a lot of good about it. How are you feeling about that? And what kind of response do you get from other people?
Yeah, I started sharing immediately as soon as Lily was born. I felt like I took my community with me on this journey, and I really cultivated a brand new community when she was born because I really opened up about my struggles with postpartum, and that brought in a whole new audience. That's where I really went from like fitness blogger to mom blogger essentially, because all these when I started sharing my pregnancy, I guess, and then even more so in the postpartum period. And so I was sharing her, no problems. You know what? I never got negative feedback about it, I would say. The only thing I would get questions about like, how do you feel about it? And my answer was and has always been the same. And it was, I'll share them as long as it feels right and I feel comfortable. I'll take it day by day. Funny enough, I actually made the decision at the beginning or just before summer to stop sharing their faces. And most people, I would say, haven't noticed because I'm really good at editing videos where to take their faces out. You probably haven't noticed, but after this, if you would go check out my account, you haven't seen their faces since I think May. I always sort of thought to myself, like, the babies change every day. Like, I don't even remember what she looked like as a newborn. I don't remember, like, they look so different and they change so often. But now she was starting to get recognized on the sidewalk, and people are starting to stop her or my nanny and being like, I know, it's Lily. And so when that started to happen, and now she's 4, but she looks like the same person for probably a little bit now, and she's starting a new school, or she started a new school. So I just made the decision that I was going to stop showing their faces. They are in my content still to give the picture of like, this is my life. This is what I do. I'm a busy mom. I have 2 kids. I run a business. I find ways to work out. So I'll show the backs of their head. Luckily, Sky has a wonderful head of curls. It's very easy to hide her face. It makes it very easy. But yeah, I sort of archived a lot of old content of them, like birthday parties and things like that. And so you'll still see baby stuff on my account and like a few things, but for the last little bit, there's been nothing, and there won't be anything going forward. And I do have like a really small close friends list where I'll still post some stories of them because, like my family loves to see, and social media is how we communicate, and cousins want to see them and like little things like that, but it's a very small list. And yeah, they're not in my content with their faces anymore.
I think it's a really good reminder though, that like you can just, you can't plan anything, and you kind of just roll with this type of stuff when it comes up. Like, you don't need to say, okay, at this time, like, I'm going to do this with my social media.
Yeah.
So, like, you found
I
like
went off how I'm feeling. And listen, there's going to be some people that disagree with everything I've just said. Like, you shouldn't have shown them in the first place. And you know, you're putting them out there. And I get it. People are entitled to their own opinions. I did what felt right with us. It was always communication with my husband about it. And, you know, I have a sister who is on social media too, has a following, and like, she never showed her kids. There's always been little emojis on their faces since day one. And she's had her thoughts about it. So I think you just do what feels right for you. And of course, there's going to be people that feel very passionate about this and disagree with it. And then some people who, you know, yeah, everyone just does their own thing. And I have and will continue to. And they won't be shown anymore. But like, that has been my decision.
Yeah, and I think that's great. And I think like there's so much noise out there too. And like, people have so many opinions, and you just have to do what's right with your family. Like, everyone, I find social media has been like a blessing and a curse in so many ways for me.
Me too.
Like, yeah, I know.
I feel that.
Yeah. Tell me more. Like, how has it been? I know all the amazing ways that it's helped you, but like, tell me how you're like coping with the things that are not so good about it.
Okay, there's two things I can think. Obviously, the first one people think of is like the trolls and the negative comments and things like that. And I think over time, you just sort of develop a thick skin. And I really don't get offended by the negative comments unless it's from someone like really in my community who's followed me for a while, and I feel like they should know me and know. So if they're sending me, you know, a message, and I mean, it rarely happens, I do have to say. The only time I get real troll comments is when videos go viral, in which case your videos are now reaching millions of people who don't follow you and they're not in your community, and they have 4 seconds to form an opinion about you. And, you know, the comment section is where it's at, right? So I was told I was a garbage mom yesterday on like my funny video about the kids watching iPad. You know, you've iPad on the airplane. You hear everything. And those types of comments don't get to me because these people don't know who I am. They don't follow me. This video ended up on their Explore page. And they're fighting, and then they love it to pick a fight in the comments. Same with TikTok. I've heard it all, and you know, we screenshot them, send them to the sisters, and we laugh about it, and that's how you go. So in that way, that's obviously one, I guess, sort of negative is when like you do take the comments to heart, and it has taken time. I've been doing this for a long time, so I have developed a thick skin. I think for me, the hardest part now is where social media has gone, which is video content. When it was photos, you used to be able to sort of just get the photo and be done with it and move on with your life. Now I find that it's really hard to reconcile that everything feels like a content opportunity. I just want to be living in the moment and not thinking like, oh, this would be good content. This would be good for a daily vlog. And it's really hard to take yourself out of that, especially when I was showing the kids. I wanted to just be with them. And that was also a part of why I just decided to stop showing them and like filming. It's because I just was taken out of the moment. And for me, that has been the hardest part. Like, I want to just live life and not feel like I should be filming. And it's so unbelievably hard to take yourself out of that when it's your job.
It's so hard. And it's not even like my full-time job, and I have to do it for work too. And it feels sometimes like, oh, like Aria was like putting on my slippers the other day, and I was like, I should get this on camera. Like,
exactly. It is your job. It's everyone's job, actually, because everyone needs social media now to have a business, and everything is content. You're filling orders for a business, even though you're not a creator. Like, you should probably film that. You should show that on TikTok. It's everyone. You're a teacher, a high school teacher. Like, think about all those people now that are like thriving on TikTok because they are showing little bits and pieces of getting their classroom ready. Like, everyone feels that pressure, I think.
How do you disconnect? Like, I feel like because you're like so heavy into it, like, how do you have anything or tools that you like use to be like, I'm not going to be on my phone for X amount of time? Like, how do you like disconnect?
I don't have any tools. I always joke that I'm the worst influencer ever because my phone kind of just goes away at night and I'm so done. I don't want to look at a screen anymore that I'm like, oh, I probably should have filmed that I was out for dinner with my friends. Oh, I did something fun tonight. I probably should have filmed. I probably should have grabbed a photo and I never do because I'm just done with the screen. I'm not a night person. I'm done with the screen come 7 p.m. All my work is on my phone. I'm editing on my phone constantly. I'm filming. I just don't want to look at it anymore. So really, it's like, I feel like I should be better at being on it more.
No, I feel like that is a good tool. Like at
But there's
7,
not really tools. It's like I'm fed up.
I'm exhausted.
I'm exhausted. Your tool is exhaustion.
I want to get into your postpartum journey. It's so interesting. And I actually have to share with you that I read a long time ago, this must have been with your first, you shared like your whole labor journey. And then I got pregnant, and I remember being so terrified at the like concept of having an episiotomy. Like nothing else would like shake me. I'm like, yeah, like I'll push a baby out of my vagina, but like, the thing with the thing that scared me the most was like that concept and like not knowing anything about it. And then I read your blog post. It was like a post. I remember reading.
Yeah, it was blogging. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, oh, like it doesn't sound so scary. She got through it. And lo and behold, I ended up having an episiotomy. And I remember
you manifested the episiotomy.
I think I manifested it. I remember being like in my OB's office, and it was like, I remember before I read your post, it was like, what is the percentage of women that get episiotomies at this hospital? Like, I need the data. Like, I need to understand if this is going to happen to me. And then obviously, like, as I'm pushing, they're like, we need to do an episiotomy. And I was like, I remember being like, do you have to? Like, do you have to? Like, anyway, I want to turn it to you because your experience is so interesting and you're so candid with sharing it. But what was your journey like for labor? And then like your postpartum, like for people who don't know you and people who want to like learn about your journey?
Yeah, sure. Well, I've had 2 episiotomies and they are no fun and no joke. So yeah, I feel ya. Okay. I guess pregnancy with, like I'm very fortunate and grateful. Like we got pregnant fairly quickly with Lily and quickly with Sky. So I just had 2 very different experiences. Like I was pregnant with Lily and I was extremely active. I even filmed my first ever product, which was a pregnancy workout guide. And I filmed it from like 37 to 39 weeks pregnant. And I went to over 41 weeks with Lily. And I was feeling really good. I had like some nausea and in that first trimester, I really didn't work out. So I definitely dealt with like things like feeling disconnected to who Kale and Crunches is. I was eating bagels and cheese, but I'm posting, no one knows I'm pregnant. So there was that, not sharing about it until it felt right for me to share, hiding this identity, feeling lost in who was this identity now. I'm definitely not eating kale and I'm certainly not doing crunches. And I was like, this should have been called carbs and calories at this point. This account, like we were done with the kale. But it was a thankfully a good pregnancy aside from just the overt food aversions. And again, like was very active. The labor and the delivery was the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life. I was extremely annoyed about being overdue. I was in a ton of pain. I had nerve issues, like where the baby was sitting. I was in excruciating pain. I felt I was walking around for a week at 4 centimeters dilated.
Same here. I also went to 41 and was walking around 3 centimeters.
Didn't you feel like you were walking around with the head between your legs, but like the baby wasn't coming out? Like I was ready and I begged my doctor to induce me and was sent home so many times. And I was just in so much pain. I look back at it and I think I probably complained a little. I probably upset some people about that. But when you're in that much pain, it's hard. And also when it's your first pregnancy, like you don't have that, I don't even think you have that perspective on, you should just be lucky that this is your biggest problem. So I definitely learned from that as well. And anyway, we got induced. I got an epidural. I wanted an epidural. My birth plan, funny enough about the episiotomy, was give me an epidural and don't tell me anything. If you have to cut, if you have to do this, I don't want to know. I'm extremely squeamish. I can't even put a tampon in still to this day without getting a little queasy. Like I can't deal with blood tests. I can't get a pap smear. Like I am the worst patient in the world. So just keep it quiet. Don't let me know. So I'm pushing. It's a 2-hour mark and they're like, last chance, push. And then I remember they didn't say, like, I think they maybe said like, we have, and they legally have to tell me they're doing the episiotomy, but I was like, plugging my ears and I'm like, la, 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 don't tell me. I don't want to hear. I don't want to know. But it was really hard. Remember my epidural wore off. I did feel the episiotomy. They had to freeze me again with a needle because it was like, at this point, everything wore off and it was, whew, she came out eventually. It was a really, obviously the recovery was extremely difficult physically because I pushed for so long and plus the episiotomy. Mentally, the recovery was 1,000 times worse. I had horrible anxiety, debilitating breastfeeding pain. I had something called vasospasms, which is like, what is it? I don't know what it's, what's it called? What's the arthritis condition called in your joints, like Raynaud's or something like that? Raynaud's, I think. I had like that in my nipples, essentially. I had a lot of anxiety, physical discomfort, and I just really, I was struggle city over here. It was really hard. I got some therapy, and I worked through it, and luckily, eventually started to feel better around the 6 to 8 week mark. And then with Sky, Lily was, I think, 12 or 13 months when we got pregnant. And it was nausea and vomiting from day 1 to day whatever until when she was born. It was horrible. It was a completely different pregnancy. I literally threw up until the day she came. It was very challenging to have a 1-year-old at home also. And it was a pandemic. So very different experiences. I was going through it. It was really, really challenging. But she came a little bit earlier, and this delivery was very different because they said, do your 1 push, and they were quite close together. So I did that push, and they're like, the practice push. You have to do the practice push? Yeah. And they're like, baby's coming, get the doctor. And then the doctor came in and it was like, your scar tissue from your episiotomy is not going to move. Like, we have to do another one. And I was really upset because I knew about it from the first time, but I was like, just do what you got to do. Obviously, I'm trusting the doctors. I'm sure there's some people that are probably listening to this that are like, you should have advocated, you could have massaged. Like, I know, you know what? I'm not that person massaging my perineum. I'm a pre and postnatal certified trainer, but I will not massage there. Like, I am nauseous about this and I am squeamish and I own it. So I let them do it. And I think because I didn't have that pushing part, it was a much faster physical recovery. Like, obviously the episiotomy hurt and it was painful and swollen and all the icing and stuff, but like, I didn't have that 2 hours of the pushing. So I felt much better physically. And then mentally, I think I just was so much more prepared for how rough it could be mentally that I was okay. Like, I wasn't knocked off my feet like I was the first time. And I had tools in place this time. I had therapy. I had, little things that I worked with on my therapist, like CBT things like putting ice on my face or cold therapy if I was starting to feel panic attacks coming on. Like, I had systems in place and I was prepared. And I definitely felt anxious from time to time, but it was manageable. And it was just a very different experience altogether. I didn't have visitors. Again, like, my parents met this baby through the window. It was the pandemic. So I think, but that for me ended up being a helpful experience because visitors really triggered me first time around and no one prepared me for that. And so to be living in this little bubble of our now family of 4 was actually really helpful. And I think also helped get me through it.
Yeah, I think also like the visitors, first of all, there's so much to unpack in that whole thing. And like, thank you for sharing that so candidly. And like, honestly, I feel like the visitors too, for me, were such a big thing. And I had seen on social, like, you can say no to visitors. And it's like, when it's your parents and the child's grandparents and aunts and uncles who you're really close with and cousins who are like, when can I meet this baby? It's actually like really not that easy to be like, no. And you're so hormonal. So I actually found that really challenging as well to be like, and I remember like on day 5, I said to my husband, I was like, no visitors today. Because I was like, at that point. But it took like a few days to get to that point. And it was,
especially if you're second and you need help with the first, and it's like, you feel bad taking help in some areas, but then setting the boundary about like what they're not allowed to do. There's like guilt involved. It's like, well, you're helping me so much by watching my older kid, but how can I then say you can't see your new grandkid? Like, there's all these, I mean, I didn't have that again because it was COVID and it was, there was no visitors anyway, but I can imagine that that's also like a really hard place to be when you accept help in certain areas, but want to set boundaries in others.
How do you accept help when, like, I don't know what it's like to have a second. So how do you accept help when you have 2 kids? Like, how do you rally your village? And like, did you hire help? Like,
Yeah. So I'm always the most candid about this. We have a nanny, and I think there's a couple of reasons why I'm extremely candid about it. Because I remember we got a nanny for our first time when Lily was a year and a half. And that first year and a half, when I was trying to work and be a stay-at-home mom, I remember I would just look on social media and always wonder, anytime I saw a mom, I'm like, oh, where's the kid? I don't know if it was like triggering for me or just made me like, I was just, or genuine curiosity. I don't really remember. It's probably a little mixture of both, but I was like, where's the baby? Or like, what's your kid doing right now? Like, who's watching them? So I remember if I was feeling that way, I'm sure every time I was sharing something where my kid wasn't attached to me, that's where the mind went. And I always was just like, I never want to give the impression that I was doing any of this on my own, sharing videos and content and seeing the house that looks clean. Like, there was all these little things that I was so cognizant of that could be so confusing, triggering for other people, that I shared so candidly about like the decision to hire the nanny. I shared a blog post about how we hired her, where we found her from. Like, I just wanted it to be so honest and authentic. And my nanny's not like in my content, but I'm always sort of just reminding people that she exists. And it's funny to go back to our conversation about the trolls. I'd say like the number one thing I get trolled on the most is like having help. And I think it's so funny because it's like, if you share that you have help, you're getting trolled for having help. But if you don't share, then you're just making people feel like you're doing it all on your own, and it's making people feel worse. So I'd rather take I don't know what it is about the nanny. I think, and especially it's like the stigma around nanny. But if my kid was in daycare, there would be I wouldn't get in any trouble or from the trolls or anything like that. Let
me tell you the trouble I get into with daycare.
Right.
I see things on social like being like, oh, how does it feel that daycare is raising your
kids? Yep. Yeah. I know. And honestly,
the first time I read that, I cried. I was like,
oh yeah. I remember when and it's funny, the nanny just always comes back into it. Someone's like disagrees with it. They're like, oh yeah, well, how does your nanny feel about this? I'm just like, it's always a dig about the nanny. I don't know what it is, but regardless, I still think it's important to give the full picture. I know this is also why I had an easier time with my second, because I had my nanny to help look after my first. Like, I wasn't trying to do it all. So I think it's important to give that picture. And listen, it's not easy giving up any sort of the time and control of like your kid, right? And it's always hard, and it's really impossible to do both. And I can say without a doubt that I feel like I'm failing on all fronts every single day right now, on the parenthood side, on the business owner side. Like, I feel that balls are being dropped daily. I'm drowning. And especially I'd say this couple of weeks of the girls starting schools and programs for the first time and wanting to be the one dropping off and doing all the pickups and being that mom. And it really feels like can we swear on this podcast?
Oh yeah.
That I'm fucking failing right now.
And I think that's how we're all feeling a lot of the time. Like, every time I do something too, where I'm like, where I'm, going out and I'm like, oh, but I didn't do pickup today and I feel so bad. Or when I'm, like neglecting like the business, I'm like, I didn't do sales today. Like, that's my number one job that I have to do as a business owner. Like, I didn't do that today, and you'll beat yourself up, right? Like, you're burning the candle at both ends, and it's challenging. So I definitely feel you on that, but I think kudos to you for like having the nanny. I think as a high achieving woman, like, you don't have a choice. You have to get the help. Like, people live in villages, right? Like, they had so much help. Like,
right. And I'm choosing to be working out of the house. Like, because quite frankly, being a stay-at-home mom is the hardest job in the world. And I don't think I'm cut out for that. Like,
me either.
I am not cut out. Like, I have all the respect in the world. I know it is the hardest job in the world. And I have so much respect for people that stay home and raise the kids, because like, I don't think I could. I think I would be really bad at it. I could, obviously I would, but I think I would be really bad at it.
Yeah, straight up. If it makes you feel any better, I would be terrible at it. I feel like my mental health would like seriously decline. I feel like I wouldn't have like, and not to say that your kids aren't like a big part of like your purpose, but I feel like I wouldn't have a lot of like personal purpose. So I feel like that would suffocate me. So I'm right there with you. It would be very challenging for me too. Bounce forward. Let's bounce back for 1 second.
We don't like that term, but okay.
No,
Just for the I'm kidding.
Just in time. Bounce back in time. For 1 second. How did you get into like why exercise and why fitness and why sharing that with your community and like making that a big part of like your brand?
Yeah. So I found health and fitness from having a 9-to-5 job that I hated. I was sitting down. I was really sedentary. And as a former dancer, you know how that is. I
did not know you were a former dancer.
I use that term really loosely. I went to high school for dance, but I sucked. Let's just set the record straight. I was not talented. I am not talented, but I had the passion.
Okay, but
loved it.
If you went to a high school,
they let anyone in. It was Earl Haig. They let anyone in. I did have to audition, but I know my year, and like anyone who was in my year will vouch for this. They let us all in. We were dance majors and we loved it. And it was the year that like Center Stage came out and we were fucking passionate about it. And I was the most passionate about it. Like I lived and breathed ballet, had all the posters from the National Ballet of Canada on my wall growing up, sign point shoes. Like I loved it, but I fucking sucked. So I'm just setting the record straight. But I was active, right? I was dancing probably like 22 hours a week in my prime during like at school and after school. I was dancing 22 hours a week. So that's all you need to know is that I went from that to going to university, dancing the first couple of years and whatever they had, and then just not dancing at all. And I was not I never had a gym membership. I never went to a workout class in my life. I was not into fitness. Friends would take spin classes. I was like, that sounds terrible. And then I went then I got a 9-to-5 desk job. And that is where I just felt like crap. I was just noticing that like my body was changing. I was feeling tired. I had headaches all the time. I was in real estate. It was, I don't know what it's like now, but it was definitely a boys' club at the time. It was a lot of like going out for drinks and trying to keep up and eating takeout and not worrying. So I definitely wasn't feeling my best. And that's where I found health and fitness and became obsessed and passionate. And I would spend my lunch hours like reading Pop Sugar Fitness. It was the only fitness blog at the time, I think. And anyway, I ended up joining the gym in the office building, and I took step classes and Zumba, and I was still too afraid to try spin at this point, but I loved it. And I was like, gosh, if only like I could be doing this. And I would eventually got the confidence to try the spin classes. And it got to the point where I was like, that 6 a.m. class before work was the happiest moments of my day. Like I just knew that I had this calling to do something with it. And I loved the spinning because it was to the beat, which as a dancer, you can like, you understand what it feels like to move your body to the beat. And I couldn't listen to a song in the car without like choreographing a spin routine to it. And I was like, I need to get certified. I need to do this. And that's what I did. I did my certifications while I was working. I didn't just leave the job and pursue it. Like I stayed in my job and I was like, how can I make this a thing? And I got spinning certified, CanFit Pro. That's your personal training certification. I did the weekend course. And then I started, it actually took me about like a year to audition because I was so scared, right? I was like, I can't do this. It took me a year to get the courage to audition. And eventually I did. And I got the times that worked for work, which was like 6 a.m. classes, 7 p.m. classes, weekend classes. And I started to build up a roster. And I was like, okay, I don't think I can make enough money teaching just group fitness classes. I probably need to do the personal training too. That wasn't necessarily my like passion, the one-to-one. I really still to this day love the group stuff more. But I was like, I have to do this. If I'm going to make it a job, like I have to make an income and I have to build up a clientele. So that's what I was doing. Of course, we talked about how the social media part came into it. That was never part of the business plan. It ended up being a bonus and ended up being the thing that allowed me to leave because the partnerships were fruitful. So to take it forward to bounce forward, I was in a place now where I wasn't teaching anything. I wasn't seeing clients. Again, 2 babies within like from 2019 to 2021. And I was finding fitness again for the first time as a mom, as a postpartum with 2 babies mom. And I felt really disconnected from my body. I felt like there was no fitness instructor, brand, creator, influencer that I could relate to because it felt like everyone was telling me how important it is to get 8 hours of sleep a night and how important it is to drink water and eat these foods. And I'm here drowning and being like, I can't control how much sleep I'm getting. Don't tell me how important it is to sleep. Tell me how I can take care of myself without the sleep. because that's not my choice right now. And I started finding ways to do that. I decided nap one was going to be my workout time. I'd close the door and I'd get my workout in, and then I'd get to whatever needed to get done in the house, wash the bottles in the sink, do all the things, and didn't change out of my workout clothes. I was finding these little tangible things that were making me feel better and finding fitness again through like doing these small little at-home workouts that just felt tangible. And I was like, I need to share this with other moms because I'm feeling so good. I'm seeing results. I'm getting stronger, but I'm kind of doing my own thing here. So I felt like there was a white space for busy moms. It's not really Bounce Forward's not just postpartum, right? I'm not taking you from like week 0 to week 6 and finding that foundation. Like I highly suggest seeking help and making sure that you're feeling strong enough to come into Bounce Forward. But it's about how to find a holistic approach to taking care of yourself with these short workouts, with working on our mindset that we're not going to look the same. Things aren't going to look the same as they used to. I'm sorry, they won't. Okay. And it's not just physically, it's everything. Your life doesn't look the same. You don't have the same amount of time. Your priorities are different. So how are we going to move forward with that? How are we going to make that work? And that's where Bounce Forward is born.
I love that. I think that having that community too is so special for people. Like, it's not just like, here's like an exercise influencer. It's really like about building community with these women.
Our community, I can't even begin to tell you. We have this WhatsApp group and like it brings me so much joy. These moms are just it's like having a group chat with your mom friends, but you're also holding each other accountable with getting a quick workout in or a 20-minute walk. And it's just seeing these moms share their little workouts, or our group chat is all over the place. It's like, got my workout in to another mom, like coming on there crying, to being like, my kids started daycare and I went back to work today, to breastfeeding problems. Like it's all over the place, but it really feels so connected. I even shared last week as their coach being like, I need you guys. I'm really struggling. I've cried like all week. And it's a really special place.
I really need this. I think I'm just going to join.
I'll get it to you. Don't worry. I'll send it to you after.
Yeah. Like I think that it's so universal as just like a mom with kids of any age that like, it's just really challenging to find that time. And also as a dancer, and I'm sure other athletes or former athletes or anyone who like had competitive sports in their life, like can attest to this. Used to feel like, and sometimes it creeps back in, where like, if I'm not getting a full fucking workout, like where I'm like hitting hard, like I shouldn't do it at all. Like that's not a workout if I do 10 minutes of like glutes. And now it's like obviously changed. My mindset has completely shifted, but I still creeps back in being like, oh, you have to do like a full half hour and you got to sweat and you got to schwitz and you got to like do it properly. And it's just like, that's the dancer in me being like competitive almost with myself. And it's not achievable. It's just not. And then I'll lose out on the workout. Like I just won't do it. Right.
Well, we call ourselves recovering perfectionists in our group. It's like, it's perfectionists, whatever you want to call it, support group, because that's what the number one thing we work on in Bounce Forward is going from that all or nothing mindset to something is better than nothing mindset. Because what's your what choice do you have? Right? You don't have that hour every day anymore.
No, it does not exist.
So are you going to do nothing?
Yeah. And like,
right?
If you can do it with 2 kids in your business, like I can do it with 1 kid in my business. Cause like I hear 2 kids is like 10 kids.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, with mine, yeah. My second feels like 10 kids. But
everyone I speak to that has like more than 1, they're like, 1's fine.
You know what? I didn't really feel that until my second was a bit older. Like when she was a newborn, I just didn't think I appreciated how easy newborns were. Like, yeah, you're sleep deprived, but they don't move. They don't do anything. And I was like, what's everyone complaining about this 2 kids business? Like 2 kids feels like 10. And it really wasn't until she was a toddler that I was like, holy shit. Okay, here we go. Now I get it. I totally wanted a third back in the day. Now I'm done and happy. Like she needed to grow her legs first. She needed to walk before I made my decision.
I so appreciate hearing that too. Like, because at one point, like, this is really sweet. Like, my husband said to me, like, if money wasn't like a thing and like we could do all the things we wanted to, like, I'd have a lot of kids. And I'm like, that's so sweet. But like, no.
Yeah, do you want to get pregnant a lot of times, sweetie? That is really nice. Yeah, no, that is really nice. My husband was not like that. He was like, don't even think about the third. And I was like, we're going to think about the third. And now he's like, see, I told you. And like part of me just cringes inside that he was right. But it's still not enough to make me to do it.
You're a believer now, toddler.
Yeah. I would, yeah.
So you, first of all, hold on. Let's just go back for a second. You eat so well. I'm sure it's not every day, all day. But like, I feel like I'm eating like as a business owner and a mom, but like more so like a business owner. I feel like I'm like that business owner who's like building from like a company from like their basement and like eating noodles sometimes and like eating like bread and butter. And I'm like, what did I eat today? And you're so good at like, I see your beautiful food and I'm just like, oh my God, that's so nice. And then I'm like, I can't, I don't do it.
Are you making food for your toddler?
Yeah, I'm really healthy, delicious meal.
So what? So you do that in your kitchen, and you're like, is your oven on at any point?
I can turn it. Yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, let's say you have like 15 minutes where you're probably prepping her food, right? Yeah. Do you have groceries in the fridge? Number one.
I need to do more grocery shopping.
Yeah. So really, it starts with a little bit of prep work. First of all, like I'm not perfect. I'm not eating like that. And like, I remember when I first started this job and my days were like starting at 4:30 in the morning, getting in the car to go to my first client, ending at 10 p.m. And I would probably consume a box of granola bars that day. Like that was it. So I've definitely been the noodles on the go, protein bars on the go, like not taking care of myself. But it's just a matter of like knowing how much better I am at all these jobs that I feel like I suck at when I'm properly fueled and keeping my energy levels balanced, and I'm dealing with skin issues. And like, so there's a lot of motivating factors to me for why I try and eat the way I do. So my number one tip is like, I made chicken the other day at 6 a.m, right? There's right? Like I'm telling you, like I'm not doing a Sunday prep, right? Weekends are a shit show now. So I just think like if you have the groceries, you got to have the groceries, number one. Okay. You got to find the time to just get a couple things, a pack of meat, a couple vegetables, like just something. And if you're in the kid making food for your kid, if you're in the kitchen making food for your kid anyway, make the food for yourself too, because you have to eat too. So a couple of days ago, it was 6 a.m. I was making Lily lunch. I threw chicken in the oven because I was in the kitchen anyway. And now I have chicken for the week, right? I eat the same thing pretty much every day. Like I will quickly prep my vegetables, make a big batch of grains. You just do these things. So when you're putting it together, it's 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Truthfully, I find the hardest thing to do is actually find the time to eat it.
Yeah, it's true.
That to me is the thing, especially when I do a salad. I'm like, I should have wrapped this up in a wrap because like I'm trying to type and I end up taking like an hour to eat my lunch or it doesn't get eaten. I find that is the harder thing to do than having the food to eat.
I do things so fast. I'm like, if I have to spend 15 minutes prepping, then when am I going to actually eat?
But so then when you're in the kitchen anyway, is what I always say to my clients and my members and my followers. Like that's literally, that hack has saved me, because if you're in the kitchen anyway, just make it for yourself too. Like you matter too. That's the mindset piece that we teach Advance Forward, is you matter too. You have to fuel yourself first.
Yeah. I need to do it while I'm in the kitchen. Like I think my biggest thing is like, I'm going to make her dinner and then I make delicious dinner. And then I'm like, okay, what are we going to eat? And then we'll do like takeout, or I'll make something just like really like easy and quick. And it's not super nutritious. Like it's so funny. Cause I'm sure like my mom or whoever's laughing, cause like, they're like, you guys eat so healthy. And I'm like, I have a better standard for myself. Like if I have like, a half an avocado for lunch, you're only seeing me eat that. You haven't seen me eat like Cheerios for dinner. Like I have a higher standard for myself. So I'm like, jam pack it with more nutritious stuff and just do it in the kitchen. It's a really good piece of advice.
Or on the other hand, my mom, who she's an expert chef, who's watching me make chicken thighs with garlic powder, and she's like shaking her head slowly because she's offended by the crappy ingredients I'm using. She's like, this is not cooking, Marlie. You are better than garlic powder. I'm like, no, I am not, Mom. I am not.
For this stage of my life, Mom.
For this stage of my life, I am garlic powder.
God, that must be so helpful though. Does she like drop you off some delicious food?
Yeah, she does. My mother-in-law does. Like we're good in the food department. If we don't make it, it will be there. Like, well, no one's starving with their cooking.
I love that. Okay, this has been so amazing. I feel like If you're not already following Marlie, you absolutely have to. She's inspired me in so many ways. Also, you know how you inspired me too? I think I saw it on your Instagram with your kids having iPads on the plane. And we just came back from a trip to Nova Scotia. And we were like debating. We were like, it's a 2-hour flight. She'll be fine. Like, we don't need an iPad. And then I was just like, Marlie's got iPads for the kids. I'm bringing an iPad. And it saved us. She loved it. It was the first time we introduced an iPad to her. And the flights were so good.
There you go. See, go to that reel, everyone. You can see that people disagree with you. You are a bad mom, Danny. You suck. You failed. You got your kid an iPad. Shame on you.
It couldn't feel like more smart or more badass in that moment.
Oh yeah.
And I remember the flight attendant as we walked out, she was like, "Oh, that was so sweet. Like, you and your husband were sleeping and your daughter was just like playing on her iPad." And I was just, I was like, "Thank you." I was like, I got sleep on the plane. So
oh my gosh. So like, I'm not at that point. Like my two, like the same age as your daughter, like my daughter she'll watch for 1 second and then she'll whip the iPad at some passenger across the plane. So like, that's just who we're dealing with here. When I say 2 feels like 10, but Lily is good with the iPad. She'll sit and she'll watch happily. And like you use your iPad whenever you want to. We use ours for travel time. So it's like, it feels like a special treat for them. Like we don't use it. We use it in airports and planes and things like that. But yeah, like I'm all for getting by however the fuck you need to get by.
Yeah, that is literally exactly what we did. We put the iPad away and say, "See you at the next trip." And boy, will I be bringing that thing out with excitement for the next. Okay, let's jump into some rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. In 3 words, describe yourself pre-kids. And in 3 words, describe yourself post-kids.
Pre-kids, adventurous, energized, fit.
Love that. And post-kids?
Tired and grumpy. No, kidding. Tired, fulfilled, and content.
I love that. Like, it seems almost like peaceful. Like those are peaceful words, description. What's one thing you would tell yourself pre-kids about being like an ambitious working mom?
Be prepared to feel like you're failing every day.
That is on the money. Couldn't agree more. I do agree, though, for what you said earlier, like, be prepared for that and it will give you a thick skin.
Yeah.
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 What is, and it's okay if you don't have one, but or a story right off the top of your head, but what is the worst mom moment of all time for you?
Oh God. I feel like I had a bad mom moment the other day when Lily was going to a new program that she had never been to. It was last weekend, and it was after our first week of, she went to a brand new school, new teachers, new friends, didn't know a single person. And she had a hard time. And my 2-year-old was being dropped off for her first time too. We all had a really hard week last week. And this was the last day of the week. And she was going to a new program. And this was like an after school thing, supposed to be fun. She didn't want to go in. And I felt like I was just a bitch about it to her. I was like, "What do you mean you don't want to go in?" And like having a hard time. And I truly feel like that was like, it's sticking out to me as like, you were a shitty mom that day, because I felt like I was so like my nervous system was so dysregulated. But imagine hers, like new school, new place. And I again was trying to put her into a new program, and I just couldn't be empathetic in that moment because I was so done. And I was just like, I didn't handle it the way I should have handled it. And I cannot stop. I can't shake it. Like it's been a week and like, I still feel bad about it. So listen, we're not all our best. And it was a learning moment for me.
It was, and it's going to be a learning moment. And the next time it happens, you'll know now. That was meant to happen. Yeah. So I truly do believe that.
Yeah.
What's the most rewarding part about being a working mom for you?
Being a working mom. I think now that my girls are old enough, I think when they like talk about what mommy does for work, It makes me smile. Like mommy teaches exercise. They actually got to come to an event with me and see me teach the class. And they stood at the top with my mat for me. That's probably like a moment where I taught a bounce forward event and they came with me and they did like the whole class with me at the front. / I had to carry Sky for the whole class. So she was my prop and my weight. But like that to me was really rewarding to show them like, this is what I do. And I help other moms feel good about themselves. And like every single day they get home and they see me, the first thing they say is, are you done working? Are you done working? And like, Sky, are you done working? And I don't know if it breaks my heart or like it makes me feel, it's a mixture of like, this is so cute, but this is also like shattering my soul a little bit. I don't know why. It's really hard, right?
It is hard.
It's the first thing. Are you done working? Done working?
It's tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
I think that's like the biggest thing as like a working mom is that you are wearing both hats constantly. Like you don't really have a separation, especially with what you do and with what I do. And when you're a business owner, like you don't really get to like take that hat off and put the mom hat on. Like they're kind of just like, you're constantly putting them both on at the same time. So
yeah, exactly.
That's changing. Okay. My last question for you to close out. What advice would you give to women who are considering starting a family while pursuing a demanding career?
There's no good time, and it's not going to get easier whether you're doing it while trying to conceive, in pregnancy, when the kids are older. There's never going to be a good time. So just do it and you'll figure it out.
Boom. Mic drop. I love that. There is never a good time.
It's always going to be hard. Something's always going to have to give. The older, bigger kids, bigger problems, they say. So like there's no good time.
That's amazing. On that note, thank you so much. This was amazing. So much good, juicy shit in there. I loved it. Like it was so helpful. If you want to learn more about Marlie and Bounce Forward, we'll put in the show notes. And thank you so much. We're like, we did it. That was amazing. Waiting to do that for so long. So thank you.
Thank you.
Love today's episode? Subscribe and share with another amazing woman and follow me at the Double Shift Podcast for more. Do you know someone that would be an incredible guest? Head to DannyKagan.com. Have a beautiful rest of your day.